Charlo, correct me if I'm wrong here. Millie and Charlo were born here. In here. Burlington is where Millie said she was born. So.
She said she was born there.
And they went to, in Temple, it was? Well, then
they were
then
in
they went to
Temple.
Fort Worth, settled. All he wanted to do was make a whole lot of money, go back and buy a big barn, build a big barn, and that was it.
We have been in
So
that
then,
barn.
and we've been to that barn.
He had never intended to stay here. He came here to make his fortune.
He was quite a patriot, a Czech patriot type thing. You know, they had love of country like we are with our Texas thing, I'm sure. And anyway, when they're ready to go back, well, by that time, Mary had married. Uncle Lewis was engaged or was in love with Mary.
Well, now, I don't know whether he was in love or married at that time or not. I know he was
didn't want
going
to
with
go.
somebody.
He was going.
So the two younger ones went
Did
back.
you ever find
So
out
he
who that
goes
other
back-
woman was in that picture?
No, never did. He went
So
back with
that face looks familiar to me and I can't.
You can stay as long as, I didn't want you to think we're cleaning up.
Oh,
this. We
okay.
have to do this.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank
He
you.
went back with, they went back with four, but not the original four. They left two and went back. Well, then, you know, he was harmed in that accident, and we saw the house. We were in the house where he died, and Millie Ann knew a lot of information. And Millie had told me I knew it, but it was fuzzy for me, but not for Millie. She had read all her notes, and she was prepared. Well, then after he died, well, then they're leaving the Czech Republic, and by that time, who's next? Annie and Jerry were married, and their spouses were not interested in coming back. So they she
You're
came
wrong
back
there.
with just two.
You're wrong there.
Oh, okay, what was that?
When they got ready to come back after Grandpa died, Jerry was going to come with them. Now, let me back up a little bit. Uncle Lewis was supposed to go back to Europe with him, but he was in love with Mary. He made a deal with Annie for her to go and that he'd help get her back to the United States, which he never did, or for some reason she always held it against him. But when
And
they
he
got
got her
ready
watch and
when they got
bribe her.
ready to come back, Jerry was single. Now I don't know what had happened to Annie at that time. Annie, I think, had married Branovitz or whatever his name was. But Jerry was going to come, but he was of the military age and he had to do his 2 years in the army. So they came back and he was still single, but when he was in the army, he met, what's her name?
Bushka.
Huh?
Bushka.
Yeah, Bushka, yeah. And so that's the reason they never did come back. Now, when Barbara got married, Millie had gone back and forth to Czechoslovakia a couple of times. So that 1 year, instead of going, she paid Jerry and Bushka's way to Barbara's wedding.
I remember.
Yeah, they came down
We
our
have
house.
pictures of them in
And they tried to get them to stay here, and that was about the time that well, I mean, a lot of history had passed and everything. I mean, the Germans had around there, and the Russians had taken over, and
Yes, it is.
she was.
We got Jerry and Bushka here now.
So
We're in 1970.
they had the one daughter, and they were going to go back then, and he was already on the pension run. But that's how Jerry didn't make it back here. He had to go in the army first, and he was planning to go. But he did make 2 trips over here after he married Bushka.
What is he doing?
And bought seven passenger Plymouth automobiles. And that's how he got in the taxi cab business. He bought those, I'll never forget those Plymouth, first time I ever saw them. They had these little jump seats that were folded into the back seat, into the back of the driver's seat, and you pull these seats out, sit on them, and they made it a 7-passenger vehicle.
There's a lot of foot room in there for that.
All I remember about the taxis was that he had it during the war, and he knew the Germans were coming, so he drove the taxi into the barn, took the wheels off of it, took them out in the pasture and buried them, and came back, and the Germans came, the car had no wheels, so they left it. And
He
so
took
then
the wheels and the radio out.
And so after the war,
That's the part you got wrong. When the Germans came, he accommodated them by hauling Germans around.
Oh, that's not what I
And
remember.
then when the Russians came in, he was charged with being a
Collaborator.
collaborator. And that was at the time that he hid the things or something, and he only ended up with a radio that he hid in a haystack or something. The Russians are the one, and he served a little bit of prison time or something.
And he escaped, and when he escaped, he didn't know where to go, so he just went home and waited for him to come get him. Nobody ever came to God and get him, so they had more important stuff. He wasn't important enough to even chase down, you know?
You're about right on what he did.
Didn't know where to go when you get out, where you go?
Got him out of the taxi cab.
There's Germans everywhere, or Russians, all they could do was just go home. Home was closest place, so we went home and forgot about it.
Well, I think they're saying Russians and also communism.
Well, yeah.
See, that first trip that Mother made over there after the war, I think, when they were under Russian control.
Yeah.
She took a bunch of these feed sack bags or something over, and they were announcing in Russian propaganda over the thing that poor old people in America were making clothes out of feed bags and stuff like that. And asked Mother if that's right, and she said, yeah, that's right, let me show them to you. And she showed them some of them, and she had brought over there. And they oohed and awed that we would put that the chicken feed and stuff in such good looking bags.
I remember that. They were doing that still when I was
Yeah.
little. I was born in 42. And my parents had cattle and, no, I shouldn't say cattle, raised a pig, a cow, and chickens all the time. We had a garden. And we did that, through elementary school, junior high.
But those bags were real pretty patterned.
Yes, they were.
I had one or two shirts out of them. What are y'all talking about? When I was at Sam Rose Elementary, yeah. Mom had made me a
Mother
shirt out
talked
of
about
it.
people wanting to question them, and then they were trying to get the attic of houses and all the question or so that.
Should
I
we
guess
tell
they're
them
pretty
about
sure
the wonders of America?
that the attic hadn't been bugged or something. And she had some long tail that first trip she made on that Polish ship or whatever it was.
To me, that's really
Bot 30.
interesting.
Bot 30.
Victoria,
I remember that, I remember her leaving, I don't remember her coming back, but I remember Grandma Bobby babysitting us at 2517.
She
And
really had a good time on that trip, though.
Yeah,
Oh, she
we got
really did.
pictures where she and,
She talked about it till she died.
yeah. And we were trying to figure out if Mom and some man are in that picture laughing and,
I
on
think
the,
they lived in Cincinnati or something like that.
no, it was,
It was
Street's Edge.
Uncle Eddie.
Yana's father.
Yeah.
That's who that was, the guy that was in it. And I saw him a month before he died. We went to his flat and visited him.
No, it was later after he died.
6 months ago, something like that.
Now tell me the connection between Pryor and this Ted or whoever he is.
Pryor has speeding tickets, and he just took them to an attorney there in Bedford.
And the attorney
And
is
it's
Ted
Tyler.
Paparadich, which is,
The grandson of
His
Tony.
grandson.
Ted is an attorney.
yeah.
He's Pryor's speeding ticket person.
We visited Stanley and his wife and we.
Now, that's
met
not
with them one time.
Stanley's, it's not Stanley's son, it's the other.
Yeah, I know, it's
Lewis?
Tony Lewis.
Now, we visited Stanley and his second wife one time. Paul and I did, trying to figure out who that lady was in the picture that we don't know in the wedding picture of your parents. And
I've been drugged to some strange places.
they have no idea. Stanley, I was hoping he would say, oh, that's Aunt so-and-so. And then we'd have to pick the puzzle solved, but we didn't know her. And Stanley, I believe now, Stanley and Lewis had a grocery store together.
At Euless.
Uh-huh,
I believe it's at Euless.
right.
There's a drive-in grocery.
I don't know. They told me where it was at the time, but I don't.
I believe it was at Euless. Well, that was
Seemed like it
before
was
all that
down there
section
on
of the
Highway
country
10.
grew together. Those used to be little separate towns as you went the back way to Dallas.
That's the store, I think, that Jerry and whatever, Mylan, I think they ended up buying that store is what they're talking about, I think.
I don't know.
This is kind of off the subject, but did we ever tell you the story of my friend that I teach with and her connection to Daddy?
No.
When Audrey was graduating from high school, she got a scholarship to A&M. We went to the Aggie Muster because that's where they were presenting the scholarship. And this friend of mine that I teach with, her son was getting one too. So we were there, and Daddy and I went. Mom stayed at home for some reason. I can't remember now why she didn't go. But anyway, we were talking to him, and I introduced Daddy, and somehow he said that he had grown up in Fort Worth, and Pam said, We grew up in Fort Worth too. And so they started talking about location. Daddy, you tell the story because you know the places better than I do.
And she asked me if I had ever heard of Hackers Cafe. And I told her, yeah, I almost might have been ended up running the thing. That I was engaged to Elsie, the Vacker's daughter. And then we had busted up and I had found another one. Come to find out the table I'm sitting at is Elsie Vacker's son.
Oh,
That was Harold's mother.
that's terrible.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
I was the other girl. I was glad I wasn't there.
That's the
I'd
reason.
forgotten all about Elsie.
Actually, and the cutest thing was after we had this discussion about how they broke up and everything, then we got in the food line and we were kind of separated from them and Daddy said, best thing ever happened to me was when that girl, what you got, go out on a date with somebody else or
Well,
something?
then, I've always believed in the fickle finger of fate. You know, I wouldn't be in this country if Daddy hadn't immigrated over here. Also, I was at A&M and I had been dating Elsie. I might have been a junior or senior, but we had broken up once before, and then we kind of gotten back together, and I was engaged to her, but I was poor as a church mouse, and hell, I didn't have any money to entertain anybody, taking all the money to go to school, and for some reason, I went home one weekend, and
Unannounced. Unannounced.
unannounced, and I went out to see Elsie that was in town, and I'd pick her up. Well, she told me that her mother wasn't, actually she couldn't go out that night, her mother had something for her to do or something. I really learned later on that Bessie was probably my girlfriend, and Elsie was, her mother really liked me.
That's important.
So she couldn't go out, so I go down on the Fort Worth Dockyard, and Uncle Lewis had this saloon dinner, so I spent the evening with Uncle Lewis. And as I was driving home up 25th Street, I pulled up behind this car, and lo and behold, there is my fiancé
With somebody else.
with somebody else.
Ah.
And he was a brother of a girl that lived in Postepco Heights, and I don't think the girl liked me too much anyway. And I don't know if she's trying to help Elsie find a better boyfriend, so I guess her brother got involved with her. But anyway, I ended up breaking up with her at that time.
And that night when we were standing in line, he told me that's the best thing that ever happened to him, because otherwise he wouldn't have met Mama.
Oh, yay.
I gotta tell y'all something that Mary Lou said.
Fickle finger of fate, I'm telling you, it worked.
Somehow or other, you were standing on the sidewalk
Oh,
with your
yeah.
mother, and
No, they were in uptown
they
somewhere.
were somewhere, and was it Elsie's mother
Yeah.
that came and talked to them? And
Well, Elsie and her mother were together.
And Mary Lou says,
Ha, ha, ha.
ha ha ha.
Tony's got a new girlfriend. I like her better than you.
That was real cute. Ha ha ha.
That's about right.
Lily.
Because I graduated in '39, that was all my senior year, and
Here?
mother told me that
Chair.
story.
No, wait. Here. Okay, you go.
Y'all had done into Bessie, and Bessie said that they had counted on us getting married, and that she had a bedroom suit and all lined up for it. Oh, it was really amusing.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember a picture of Elsie in my mind. I can't visualize her. I don't know what she looked like. What she looked like?
She wasn't tall. She was what I would call a buxom blonde. She was a nice looking girl.
How'd y'all meet? Y'all go to school together?
I really don't know how we met, because just like I say, I never really have anyone to entertain girl, and a lot of times I double date.
Have these.
Well, Marvin Cassidy used to always get me to go with him someplace. And I don't even know how I met Elsie, but I remember that we went together for a while, and then we quit going together, but then I remember sitting on the curb up at the at a drugstore that was next to Hill, was eating some ice cream sitting on the curb. And Elsie and another girl drove up, and before I knew it, I guess we were back in the car, but then I kind of got reacquainted with her then, and dated her several times, and then got engaged to her.
What was her last name?
Hacker.
What's your relationship to Chenault?
Huh?
Chenault, on Chenault Restaurant?
Pinky Chenault?
Huh?
Ed Toll and I, across the street from Hall Drugstore, up there on the corner of Loving and 25th Street. Do you remember a drugstore there?
Loving and 25th Street?
Cassidy's grocery store.
Yes,
on the
over here,
corner.
yeah.
Across the street from there was a old-time watering trough.
Oh, yeah.
It's a concrete thing, and it looked like a half cut into hot water heater or something. They used to put water in, I guess horses used to drink out of it. And it was a watering trough.
We're not far removed, are we?
Ed Toll and Ed was a good friend of mine. And we were kind of wondering, we were both getting to be seniors in high school, and I was double dating with him. He had a friend that, Vivian Serber, that ended old Pinky Chenault. I would go out with him. He dated and married Elizabeth Elmore that lived up on the end of Roosevelt Avenue and 21st Street. And I used to double date with him just to go out. Well, George Fowle was her boyfriend, but he was off at school or something, so I'd go to the picture show with him or something. Ed had a sister that was a cashier at the Tivoli or Tivoli Theater on the other side of town, over in Central Park area. And we used to go to the show where she'd let us in free.
Probably check.
But anyway,
Well, Tivoli Gardens is
Italy.
Ed Toll and I, at one time or another, were just kind of kicking something around, and we decided that we'd think about maybe building a hamburger joint or something there. If we could get that lot next door, we'd call it the feed trough.
Ooh. Oh,
wow.
God.
so many good ideas that you
And I
didn't
don't know
follow
whether-
through.
Yeah, the feed
Yeah,
trough,
before it's
feed
research.
place.
I don't
God,
know
dog.
whether old
So you could have married a rich old man.
see Pinky
Which young
Chenault's
man?
I'd
daddy.
inherited some of that.
Do you remember Pinky Chenault's daddy?
No,
His daddy was a red-headed policeman.
no. I don't know the Chenault, but what has happened when I was teaching it,
Huh?
And they the best milkshakes over there.
Well, that's where this guy grew up on milkshakes at the feed trough.
I went to Fort Worth, I wanted to go to the feed trough to get a milkshake.
That's where like the pig stand,
yeah, and stuff
driving.
on there on Columbus and
Stand.
25th Street right there. is a feed trough.
Loving in 25th Street.
No, Columbus. It was Columbus.
So you thought of it and he
Not
carried
loving.
it through?
You're
Is that
right,
what it is?
you're right.
Columbus, yeah, it's up a block, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Corner of 25th.
I don't know the Chenaults, but when I was teaching at Lake Worth High School in Fort Worth, a girl, one of my students comes
But he
comes
went to
up.
A&M and didn't buy
Mr.
any
Flatbed,
there.
do you have a brother? I said, yes, I had two brothers. And I don't know if she said Tony or if she said Bill Flatbed. But she said, my grandmother is something Chenault. And she knows you.
That was Vivian Serber, that was a girl.
Oh, that's the name of the restaurant, Vivian's.
Well, Vivian
Vicksburg, Iowa.
married Pinky Chenault, but they later on divorced. And she ended up running something out on the Lake Worth Jacksonboro Highway or something.
That's it, Vivian's.
There's Vivian's on Jacksboro Highway, yeah.
Vivian Serber is the girl I
Oh,
dated,
really?
double dated when I went with Ed Toll. And they lived across, Ed's wife lived across the hall
Yeah, I
from the
thought she was
Serber,
such a good
across the hall,
boy.
across the
Sounds like
street.
he's been going out and watching
Serber's owned the
everybody in Fort Worth.
North side.
North side.
You had to move out of town. Start
Well, when
fresh.
she spoke to me, I didn't know. I mean, I'm sitting there and it's like, I didn't know who she's referring to, Bill, or, because all these people come up to me and say, you know, you have brothers, and they must have been hellraisers or
Yeah,
something.
it sounds
Because all of a
like
sudden I'm getting
it's
this thing, I'm not like them, you know, I'm not like them.
Now you know how I feel. Welcome to my world.
They weren't hell raised. Kids of my generation were good kids.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. Found things to do. I mean, we weren't asking our parents, we don't have anything to do. We didn't have no TV to watch.
I was in
We
that
could listen to the radio and listen to the Light Crust Doughboys.
Yeah.
And you could walk from school all the way home and never miss a beat on the song because everybody had the Light Crust Doughboys.
Yeah.
You were disciplined too, with
Yes.
in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm listening to the Shadow Knows, the radio and all that. I did all that.
I can't
I was on the
remember.
end of it, And then here comes TD
I
and
can't
Cowboy
remember that
Thrills.
news man that Daddy used to almost crawl up in the radio. The news is good tonight. The news is bad.
That sounds like my grandpa, Henry Guerra.
That's the only source of information we can get.
Yeah,
I can't remember that news man's name.
I used to listen to that radio. I guess Michael ended up with that radio that Ram that was at our house. Tony Jr.? The only way I could get that thing to
Stephen
work,
Bill.
it
Stephen
had
Bill
a,
ended up with that radio.
it had a wire coming off of it. Stephen Bill?
Last time I saw it, he painted it green.
Well, I had it on my desk and I would study and I had that thing turned up, but you couldn't hear it. So I took the wire around to the gas jet in the other room and I twisted that thing. So I figured every time I turned on the radio, that thing probably sparked, on the gas jet.
He didn't know anything about electricity. This is
That's the only way I could
alarming.
get that thing loud enough to, I'd turn it on and I'd sit there and study and that'd be my background noise.
Did you ever have a crystal set?
Yeah, with that little thing. I made
Little
one.
thing, the sticker, and you had that
Yeah,
little
you sit there and had this. up here.
diode or something.
Yeah, you had the little
and you
thing. You set it on that
You
little
jiggle that thing
iodine
around.
crystal or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You sat there, wiggle it around till you got reception. Yeah, I made
You
a couple
forgot
of
he's a
those.
science major. He of course made those.
I made
My
those, no, I
goodness.
did those in Boy Scouts or. Cub-
No, you helped me do this for a school science fair
Yeah,
project
we did it,
once.
well, that was even later. See, I made something. I've done
I
it.
remember that. I still don't know what we did, because I was like, yeah, whatever.
And you had
He's
the
like, see,
thing.
what you gonna do, Ethan? He's all into it, and I was like, whatever, just hurry. This is due tomorrow.
It's due tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Come on, Dad, work faster.
I think that radio's got the only thing I ever owned.
Really?
I had that at A&M, and then it ended up at home. And one time after Bill and them were living there, I went in Stephen Bill's room, and there was my old radio painted green.
Yeah. Well, I played that sucker until I got married. Played it until I
Field
moved
goal, I
down.
think.
And when I moved down, I left it at Mom's house.
They've made some models like that since then.
Yeah.
I think it's a
Yeah,
replica.
they have new ones
Yeah.
of the old replicas.
Right.
Replicas of the, yeah.
So where did you two meet? Where did y'all meet?
What?
How did y'all meet?
He came down Campo to work.
This was already out of school.
Then they was working at the picture show,
I
right?
was working in the picture show.
Oh, tell that whole story like that
This
you
was a
told at
beautiful
the
day.
50th
This was a
anniversary
beautiful day,
party.
and it
Had the
snowed.
twin bed and everything on here, all that again. Kids haven't heard.
It had snowed that day.
Snowed in El Campo?
Yes, in El Campo.
That's hard.
And I was
you know?
rooming with a boy by the name of Kaiser. And we were living at Miss Iker's boarding house. And the reason we were where we were is Kaiser
I worked
was,
in the picture show.
ran the movie machine in the Floyd Theater. And we were throwing snowballs at each other when this good-looking little girl turned the corner up there with this Princess Eugene hat. And those little boots about that high on. I said, man, that's a good-looking little girl. He said, you want to meet her? If I don't meet her, I'm gonna marry her. And I did.
Yeah, you did. Best thing, you told me already, best thing that ever happened to you.
I would have been divorced from Elsie because they'd have probably wanted me to run that cafe and I would have been in there.
You just think right now, you could be back in the back room washing dishes, huh?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's real funny. Now, I think I was Miss Bessie's boyfriend. Bessie was her mother.
Mother.
Her dad now, of all the time, that was for 3 or 4 years, I only met him about one time. I think he was a chef and the cook at the Baker's Cafe. And when I'd go by there to pick her up for date, he was in bed asleep because he got up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning to start the menu for the Baker's Cafe out there at the airport.
Well, now, who were your boyfriends at that time? Are you dating anybody, or were you free?
Oh, I had all kind of boyfriends in Del Campo.
Well, she almost married a chicken farmer.
Ooh, what a lie. You'd have to go to bed with the chickens and get up with the chickens and that smell.
And who would that chicken farmer
I
have
can
been?
imagine.
Well, it's some old guy named Tyson Foods or something.
Well, he liked to wear a lot of white. You know, the kids in town used to tease him and call him Colonel.
Okay, were you the first one to get married of your four sisters?
No, I was third.
Third. Wow, yeah, you were a
Way
little
before him.
Oh, wait.
Desperate.
Yesterday.
Desperate, he said.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't believe I'd had any trouble with this.
Y'all had a beautiful wedding. Wow.
Wasn't that something?
Oh, didn't you have 12 bridesmaids?
No, 10.
8?
No, just 10.
Just 10.
I remember they had
Maybe it was
gorgeous
like-
picture hats.
Yeah, I remember seeing that picture, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
picture hats and all the dresses were ornamented, and each girl had a different colored dress.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Now, see, I didn't know that. And then Audrey wanted that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
What month did you?
June.
June.
4th?
24th.
24.
And all of us here the first time, and that's when all of us here in 90, 50, 40, you got married in 1940.
Come June, it'll be 63 years.
They're cooking for the same guy all this year, 60 years. And he still doesn't want to take me out to eat.
All I
And
can
your
say-
turkey were bad.
all I can say is I've had it 3 times longer than her parents did.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
I said I've had you 3 times longer than your parents had.
Oh,
Have you seen that commercial, Lily Mae? I think it's the Outback Steakhouse commercial, where the man leaves and goes into the kitchen and they're having a candlelight dinner and the dog's down there. And the woman lets the dog get up there and eat the food.
I saw that. And then that surprised me. But yeah.
That's cute.
Did you see the food?
Sloppy.
Pretty bad.
Looked like they needed Outback.
You know, I've never been to Outback.
We could go to that. It's lunchtime.
You know what's funny is
We've
you
been a couple times.
kind of met her at work.
They look so
The
big.
picture show.
You go in, you
And my dad met my mom, and she was
He had a
And Cindy
reservation.
was with Texaco.
I sent you to Sabine to look for
An
me.
hour at least.
Good job.
I did.
You know, my friend and I were working at Old Bossy Dairy Store, which is like a Brahms, where they short order and ice cream and everything. They had their own dairy. And Paul asked Lena, Lena was working, and so she takes his order, because she has a crush on his roommate that's right there with him. She takes his order. It's like 2 hamburgers and French fries and large tea and Martha's phone number. And she kept that and stuck it in her pocket and gave it to me, and I still have that piece of paper. It got me in trouble in
At that
1964.
time, it
Where is
was,
that, I wonder?
It's in that,
what's his name?
John Burkell.
John Burkell.
You know, the
He
kids,
came down from
Purdue,
Purdue.
Did you work there 2 summers or 1 summer?
3.
3?
And I was staying at, what's her name? Mrs. Botter? No.
Somehow I don't know
Is
about
that
Paul.
Botter?
No.
That's in Fort Worth.
So were you working as a
Her
roustabout?
grandson.
Is that the?
Yeah, roundabout in Texaco. Tony got me out in
Like Tony
First Street,
did here in mine.
Walkdale. I can't remember her name, that boarding house. That lady.
Starts with a B, and her grandson went to school with me. Her grandson lives in the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
She
really
was so
beautiful.
nice. She was really just a fine, she was an elderly lady, but she was really,
Matt Botter was the superintendent out of
I want to ask you, does he still have to have syrup with his eggs?
you bet. And ketchup.
But, you know what, I'm training. When I first got him, he would use the syrup or the ketchup or whatever, and he'd go, and then stick the lid on it. It's like, no. Your mama let you do that, but this wife is not allowed to do that.
You're not my baby.
Tony,
First time we had him in Bay, we cooked these eggs up and he's sitting there looking at them and What are you looking for? Where's the syrup? I don't have any. You know, he wouldn't touch them eggs until I gave him some money and he went across the street. Old man Mark at the grocery store and bought that bottle of syrup.
I would believe it.
And come back and poured it all over them eggs.
Dude, that
Real
sounds
cool when
awful.
we got there.
bet you
We
do.
had
It's
8 pieces
Bottle
of
like
bread
eggs.
every meal. And it's like, you're gonna have to cut that out. We can't afford 8 pieces of bread every meal. We were poor when we first got there.
That was my Depression Day dinner, going. Well, you could find bread and mustard and ketchup. Go one slice with ketchup and the next slice with mustard
And no meat,
and no meat.
just bread.
And if the apricots were ripe, you could climb up the apricot tree and eat apricots. But if you ate them when they're green, it made you sick.
Mom and Dad had when we first got married and lived in our garage apartment, Mom and Dad had a stove and you know, some extra furniture and all. So we furnished our apartment. It's a little 1-bedroom garage apartment. And we've got the stove there, but it took my dad a week to come over and hook it up. And it doesn't take anything to hook it up, but boy, it's like, no, you gotta let Daddy do it because, you know, you don't want any gas leaks and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, whatever. So y'all, I believe it was y'all or Mary Lou that gave us an electric skillet. And so you get up in the morning, and first you boil the water in that electric skillet and making 2 cups of coffee and put them in something so that they stay warm. Put saucer over them or whatever so they stay warm. Then you gotta do the toast and then the eggs. You gotta do everything in the same skillet.
Then you had to wash the skillet out because all she knew how to cook was spaghetti. And so you
No,
had to
you know,
have a
I
skillet.
could cook a
and
lot.
she
We just
could-
didn't have
She
time
cooked
for
for a
it.
big family, so we had this electric skillet with a bunch of spaghetti. And I ate spaghetti like for dinner and supper and
No, you
everything.
didn't have any money, that was it.
Well, I know.
And one time we splurged.
I'm not complaining, I'm glad we had spaghetti.
We had lime jello, we had a dessert one night.
You know, we always had a bunch of bread at the house. I don't know, Dad, where he bought it at a delicatessen on the Forward Stockyard or what, but he always ended up with those round loaves of Russian rye and the light rye in those round loaves.
He still eats it.
He's still-
Oh, he still eats
And
it.
periodically he'd come home with a bucket of calf brains.
Oh!
Sunday morning breakfast was scrambled eggs and calf brains. And if you didn't have that, and then if you didn't have that, they used to bring from the packing house the pig's ears, pig's feet, and stuff.
Pickle those.
And they used to cook them up in a sort of a gelatin thing. They called it hladets.
My
And it
grandfather
was a
did that.
gelatin mixture with this.
Sweetbreads.
No, they just have pig's feet and
No, I mean, they
pig's
call
ear.
that sweetbread, don't they?
No, sweetbread is something else.
Oh, it's something else, all right. I'm not eating
I
that
don't remember
stuff, no.
sweetbread. I don't remember eating that.
My grandfather used to do it. I remember when my dad used to butcher whatever, then, you know, cousin or that lived near us would come and help, and my grandfather would be around. And if Grandpa was staying with us at the time, then you come home from school the next day and you open the refrigerator door, and right there in front of you, this little kid's face, you know, or some pig's feet or something like that. It's like, don't need a snack. You know, that would keep you skinny.
I don't think I've ever eaten any calf brains.
Oh,
Not that you
Oh,
know.
that used to be
They didn't
Sunday
tell
morning
you.
breakfast at the house.
What does it look like when it's
Scrambled
cooked?
it with eggs, didn't you?
It's like, kind of like ham and eggs.
Like ham and eggs and
Yeah.
Or
bland
like
eggs.
sausage.
It's like eggs and sausage.
What does it look like?
Eggs and calf
Is it like
brains.
ground meat?
Well, except it's yellow.
do you eat it? Have you eaten it before?
I don't remember, if I did it, I was a little girl, I don't remember. But I remember that they made it.
Uh-huh.
And then my
I remember that they
folks
talked
had
about
some
it.
friends that lived on a farm. And every time they butchered, they made pig's feet. And I know that was a delicacy for us to go out there, to see those people and eat those pig's feet.
But to this day, she likes ice cream with soda crackers. Because they used to go out on the farm where they had plenty of milk and make homemade ice cream. But they didn't have money to buy the cookies, they'd buy a box
This
of
aunt of
crackers.
mine that died,
Uh-huh.
that was 105 years old.
Yes.
I wanted to tell this story at her funeral, but I had already had this, I believe, or something. I couldn't talk. But we used to go to their farm maybe every 2 weeks or something. And since they lived on the farm, they had the milk from the cow and the eggs from the chickens. And we would, and I don't know who had the freezer, if it was them or us. And Mama would buy the sugar and the ice, and maybe vanilla. And we'd go make this ice cream. And always, she bought a box of soda crackers because she couldn't afford cookies. And we ate that ice cream and those soda crackers. And to this day, I love it. When I eat ice cream,
Well, the salt and the sweet.
Seems like it would
Yeah.
kind of make sense now that I'm talking about it.
I have a friend that wants Snickers and popcorn.
Yeah.
That sounds better than soda crackers and ice cream, though.
Well, the one that when you learn to eat it as a youngster, you know.
And we haven't made homemade ice cream since the kids were young, since we lived in San Antonio 20 years ago.
Well, that's a lot of trouble to make ice cream.
It sure
Just
is,
go out and buy it in
but
store.
it's so worth it. Yeah, and Braum's is pretty good, though.
We used to go into home demonstrations, wasn't that? All the time I had, everybody would bring their own favorite ice cream, and then you could eat ice cream all day long.
We had like 6 or 7 freezers of ice cream. Each one was a different flavor. Boy, that was good.
Does anybody else want something to drink? Here you go. It just has tears on it.
What time is it?
What did you do, shook it up, getting it
You
here?
know, when it comes out,
When it falls out of the
it comes out
machine.
upside down, you have to turn it.
Get it out, it's hard to get out of
I
there.
don't know why they have them. I mean, why don't they have a, I guess that's so it didn't pop out on the floor, but.
I've had to
You think
have
there'd be
people
a
get
better
it out
way?
because I
Yeah,
don't
they need a
have,
better
I can't
system
pull
over
it
there,
out.
because everyone I've gotten out of
Some
there has
days.
been like this.
You know,
They
I
just
need
need
my
to send
straw
the
in your
water.
car
Yeah,
at night.
No, but then people can make their hand
It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, I got it.
It's in the room.
That's fine, that's fine.
That's why I went to the room all ago.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it, would you? It's never
People who
been used.
can't live by the rules are the ones who mess everything up for everybody else.
I better go.
See, and I don't think like that, so I can't ever, like, why don't we just do it like this?
Listen, what
And then
are
people come
y'all?
up, because if you did, people would do this.
All my things.
Yes, but you always search for a better way. Here's a solution, here's a solution.
Huh?
We weren't invited.
We had that same thing.
Martha, we weren't invited, were we? We didn't get
Now,
one.
what, did you get a separate little something?
It's on that fold up envelope you got.
But it sounds
See,
familiar.
we didn't, I didn't get that.
On the invitation,
Martha, it wasn't on yours either.
was it on the invitation?
That's all we got.
Well, it was in that extra, you know, the papers we got with all the directions, how to get here and how to get
No, I
there.
got that off the computer.
Oh,
Oh, that's what it is? Maybe we aren't invited.
well, you want
It
to
was
go
on the
anyway.
computer. That's what it was, the directions for how to get there last night. and
Okay,
then
that
if you-
explains it
They were having an
then.
open house.
Oh.
Maybe that's people they didn't invite to their wedding.
Oh, that could be.
You know, maybe they're having an open house for friends
And two,
after,
then,
that they didn't
Well,
invite to
so
their
it'll
wedding.
be
well, not only
That's what it
that,
is.
they could be having an open house too for business purposes too. You know,
I know,
the
but
landscape,
you
she
got it
does
off of
landscape
his
design.
website,
he does
didn't you?
cool-
Yeah.
What if he put it on his website, then they send,
Well, I know, but I mean, I'm not saying we can't go if we want to, but I don't think, now that I realize where I got it from, it was probably, if you can't come to the wedding, we're doing this the next day. I don't know, but that's where, yeah.
Be a lot of people that we don't know there. It's the
or Renata
families
thought this
on it.
having it because a lot of his people flew in from Puerto Rico.
Is that where he's from?
Uh-huh.
And his mother was from
Dominican
Dominican
Republic.
Republic. His mother, but where's his father from?
Yeah.
Well, I talked to his
Didn't sound Puerto
uncle
Rican.
Miguel last night, sitting right there beside me.
Oh, and he said Puerto Rico?
And he said Puerto Rico.
Ah, well, I didn't talk to.
Well, that may be where they live, but they're not from there, maybe.
Well, and Dominican
Well, there were a heck of
Republic.
a lot of them there.
I'd like to go to the Dominican Republic.
I like to go to Puerto Rico. My friend's from Puerto Rico, and she said,
But I
"We got
can't-
lots of places. I know her brothers and sisters. We got lots of places to stay down there." So I want to go there, where it's cheap.
To Puerto Rico?
To Puerto
I've been
Rico.
there once.
Yeah, you were there when Julie was born.
Yeah, right,
Mhm.
right. We were in Washington and then over there.
You know, they went to what, New York?
Washington. No, we're Washington. Are we in New York?
I think you were in New York, and we tried to call you, and we just missed you, and you just checked out and gone on the Puerto Rican part of it. We knew where you were, and she was 7 weeks early, so we didn't get to tell them. And you know when,
But she
you know
was
where?
early.
Yes, 7.5 weeks early. And so whenever Julie got married, guess where they were? Wherever it was, New York or Washington, that's exactly the same place they were. Oh, we can't come, we're gonna be in, we already have our tickets. It's like, okay.
Okay, I understand.
I understand. It's Julie's life, never mind.
All my important moments.
That's ironic.
Yes, it is strange, isn't it? Freaky. We probably ought to get our stuff out of our room.
Okay, I did ask for, the guy said, take no problem, check out. You got a
Well, I
late
thought
check
you
out.
had till 3 o'clock.
He, no, 11. But I went and told,
11?
yeah, but hey, I talked to him, and he said, there's no rush, just take your time.
It just seems like people are coming in.
Yeah, he said, there's no problem with it. He said, y'all go ahead and get together and
Even,
he's real
What is
nice
that?
about it.
it's a little nodule, so I made an appointment with the surgeon for them to take it off, got it all arranged and everything. When I go in to see him, he can do it in the office, right? And it's my little turned up nose, I didn't get it here, I
We'll be
got
right
it here.
there. I think we're gonna
You
do
have one
the
on the
same
other
thing.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna start
No,
packing
there's
up?
nothing there. But
We already got it
the
in?
surgeon said, I can take that off, but it'll come right
We gotta
back.
get ours.
And he said, I'll tell you, you don't even know you have an elbow until you have a little surgery on there, and then you
I'll
get
get
it
the
on
dog.
everything. So he said, I can do it, but, and I said, well, will it get much bigger? And he said it could, but it hasn't. It's been on
You
about
should
2
just draw a
years.
little
so-
face on it with the front of it.
I can see people sometimes and they go like that, you know? And then I just kind of put my arm down. It's not there.
Okay, that was fun.
That was fun. I wish we'd had it in here. I really wanted Tommy to
Now I
tell
just
that whole
remembered
story.
what I look like too. Just filming this and I have this hair.
Tell the camera, I
We
look
don't,
better
we didn't want the
someday.
video, we mostly get the audio.
Good.
But she didn't get half the information, things that y'all remembered, you know? We wanted that on track so we could listen to it and get an idea of what was going on.
I knew we'd do this, but
Martha didn't think of it. And I'm getting.
And where were you when all this thinking was going on?
Yeah, see, now that's what'll happen. Paul, you should have reminded me. So I'm